In this PowerPoint, we're going to take a look at general introduction to photography. So welcome to the course, and let's get started. Okay, so what is photography? I mean, let's just define what this is. Start with the obvious. What it is and what makes it good photography has rules. Just like principles and elements of design are rules, photography has rules. Dorothea Lange was a photographer who took photos during the Great Depression, and these are two of the photos that she took. She is considered one of the leading photographers throughout the history of photography. And when you look at her work, think about why is this good? What makes this good? What makes this good photography? So technically, photography is the process of exposing light on a sensitive surface such as film or an optical sensor. Artists will use cameras to capture light to tell stories, applying the principles and elements of design to ensure the end result is artistic. So photography isn't just taking a picture. It's intentionally capturing an image in an artistic way to tell a story. So there are different types of photography. We're going to talk about those as an overview today. And we're going to start with landscape photography. This is Ansel Adams. He is a very famous landscape photographer. Whether or not you know it, you have definitely seen his work. A lot of his work has been printed as posters or fine art prints, and they hang all over the place. So you definitely have seen his work. That is one of his more famous shots. There's another shot he took that is at Yosemite National Park in California. One of the great things that about Ansel Adams' work is he didn't just take a great photo. He went into the darkroom and did a lot of stuff that we now do with Photoshop and Lightroom to achieve a better photo than you could have ever taken just with the camera. It's another one of his shots. Another one that he took, really beautiful. This is out in Arizona. This is not his shot. Just really great examples of good landscape photography. And when you look at these, I've posted all these PowerPoints in the course so that you can go back and look at them in your own time and consider them. And that's what I'd like for you to do. These images are meant to show you examples of applying the principles and elements of design in a really interesting way to capture the light. Another great example of landscape photography. That is Utah, I believe. It could be Death Valley. I could be wrong. What story does this tell? Right? Think about that. Where's the story? What's the story behind the work? How have they applied principles and elements of design? Go through each one of these photos and ask yourself that. Where are the principles and elements of design? Now, one thing you're going to see here, and this is indicative of most really great landscape photography, is that you have objects in the foreground, in the middle ground, and then you have a background. And in this case, the subject obviously is the overall scene, but the flowers up close make a huge difference. Just imagine if the photograph had started here, instead of showing the flowers. It would have been okay. I mean, the sky's beautiful, the mountains, this is a glacier, but those flowers really in the foreground really help bring the eye into the photograph and lead it through into the background. And then the nice little sun right there. Now here there's no foreground subject in the sense that like the flowers were, but you can see the waves, and those work the same way. Here, really, the focal point is the sun through the arch, creating that beautiful lens flare that brings your eye in, and then you just kind of start to wander spirally out from there, right? Principles and elements of design and balance. Beautiful contrast. Just that little lightning bolt. Here, the foreground, you have the bark of the tree. Lead your eye up to the leaves. Even here in this beautiful, beautiful photo with the star trails, you have in the foreground, you still have the rocks up close that help create that foreground. Sharks playing in the waves. It's really beautiful. And one great way with landscape photography to get a foreground subject like this, I believe this is the salt flats of Bolivia. That's what it looks like. This is, they've put the camera down close to the ground. So when you get really close to the ground, you can see some really interesting stuff happening. And see how these lines, right, leading lines in principles and elements, bring the eye to the back. Portrait photography is a photo of a person or an animal, and you want to show emotion. You always want the eyes to be in focus. And I know I say always, and they're not here. They should be. Here, looks like they got the fingertip. This is still beautiful, but really, when you do portrait photography, it's important to get the eyes in focus because that's what we look at first. This is meant to make fun of all the old paintings you've seen of the women that were, kind of posed like that. They were called Rubenesques because the artist Rubens started them. Here, the artist had a sense of humor, and he was kind of, the horse to him looked like in one of those Rubenesque poses. Now, you see his eye right here is very, very clearly in focus. It's so clear in focus we can see the reflections in it. Gorgeous photo. What's the story, right? I mean, there's very clearly a story here. Another great story. And the wind blowing the dress around, and the dress is too big, and she's playing, and great story. This is during an Indian festival, color festival. All right, beautiful contrast between the green and the red. Right, he's completely covered in this red pigment that they throw at each other in the festival, and the beautiful green and red contrast in that photo. Very nice. But his eyes, that one is in sharp focus, and that's really what you want, because that's the first place we look. The great texture. What is his story, right? He's got a story. Right, eyes sharp in focus. Great subject matter, right? We even have a nice little foreground object here to help bring us into the scene. What's cool is you can see the reflection in her eyes, and those, whenever you're trying to take a portrait photograph, you really want to work on getting your reflections to be interesting, because they help you tell your story. Her eyes are perfectly in focus. Beautiful. Look at all that detail. A lot of great texture. And the bird's eye, sharp. And then the nice contrast there on the feathers. Really beautiful. And you can see the sparkle of the sun in her eyes and on the water. A lot of great texture. But she's thinking about something. What is she thinking about? That helps tell your story. Documentary photography is when we take pictures and present facts without changing anything. The whole idea is to tell people the story, right? Because it can compel people to help support a cause, and a very important cause. What's that? What's the story here, right? I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just a very interesting, cool photograph, but people are gonna notice this. People are gonna pay attention to this because, okay, so why is this guy got the mask on? What's his purpose? Or, is he protesting something, or is he being silly? What's he doing, right? And there's also the conflict between him doing this and people over here clearly not approving of it. Makes a great photo. At first, because of the exposure, this looks like he's in snow. But it's just actually rain, water that's being poured down as a shower. It's a serious story there, right? He's very, notice that. I'm gonna get those in the hospital. Very powerful image. So that's what you're looking for, right? You're going to look for an image to tell a story that people need. You need people to hear about. You need people to see. You want them to be involved. You want them to pay attention and say, hey, what's going on here? And this is just a waterfall that they're under. Festival. It's documenting an event. Powerful photo here too, right? She's about to have a baby. She has all these people in her life there to support her. So the feet on the child here are perfectly in focus. And they're on this boulevard of bricks of broken dreams, so to speak, right? Great subject. Here we really can't see her eyes, but this is one of those times when you may not need to, right? Because the picture speaks very clearly and very loudly as to the subject matter, as to the story. Yeah, we don't know what's going on here, but right, it tells a story and it makes us interested in wanting to hear more. And that's what a good documentary photograph makes you want to know more. It makes you want to know the story. It makes you want to get involved. So when you're out there walking around looking for things to photograph, especially street art, you just always be ready, always look. See if you can find something to take a photograph of that hasn't been taken before. Or if it has been taken before, how else can you tell it? You'll see hundreds of photos of the bears fishing, but look at that. That poor salmon. She was in the process of, that's roe. Those are her fish eggs, salmon eggs. She was in the process of thinking she was, giving birth, and she gets yanked out of the water by this bear. And not only is the photograph very strong storytelling, but they did a very good job of applying principles and elements when they took it. Okay, we're going to leave this here and pick up in the next video.